Thank you all for coming. It's good to see all your faces again. I hope the holidays were good to everybody. Public comment. I'd like to encourage everybody out there, if you have any questions or comments, please send us emails. Let us know what you're thinking. We really want to hear your concerns. So far, for the board members, we've had 6 or 7 emails come in, and I know that they've all been answered. I've seen the answers going out and I've seen them, so I know we're answering them. But there's one came in today at noon, and we'll be responding to them tomorrow or the next day. But we'll get some answers, answer questions, get them right back out to them. For those of you out there that have questions, tonight, a little later, there should be a lot of information coming out. And then, if I understand it right, Doug's blog is going to be on in the morning, and Mike will be on that, and there should be even more information coming out of that. So, but again, we appreciate your comments and feedback. Please send it our way. Okay, moving right along. Could we approve the agenda, please?
I move to approve the agenda for today, January 13.
Okay, it's moved. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we're good. Thank you very much. Okay, consent agenda. Could we have a motion for that, please?
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Great. All righty, thank you. We have a special guest tonight. Tony Skirdo is going to talk to us a little bit. He's the Lane ESD superintendent. And Tony, are you out there?
Yeah, Mike, I'm here. Thanks for introducing me. Yeah, and also I would like to also introduce our board chair at Lane ESD, who also is a member of the board at the South Lane School District. So I guess in a sense, we've got you surrounded a little bit here, south and north of you. So Sherry Durst Higgins is here with me tonight. And so thank you.
Hi, Sherry. How are you?
Thank you for letting us present.
Missing
here.
everybody.
Sherry, go ahead. You have some things to say up front? I'll let you go ahead and start talking first if you want.
Just that we appreciate the support that Creswell gives Lane ESD and South Lane, and we miss Mr. Anderson at our meetings.
Business kept me out of town.
So,
Well, we think about you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, Tony.
all right. Thanks, Sherry. And again, with Mike, yeah, it's been for several years the liaison for small schools in the county, and has been a liaison to our school board, and we very much appreciate that effort, Mike. And so we know we'll see you when things get a little less busy too. You know? As far as the real purpose of tonight's presentation, it's about our local service plan, and every year, all of the 16 component school districts in Lane County are asked to vote on our local service plan. It is something that's created by our 16 superintendents, and they voted in favor of this plan at our December 15th meeting. This actually is a 2-year plan. We try to create a 2-year plan to fit within the kind of state biennium cycle, but we do have to bring it to our component boards every year. The way this plan is put in place, it's got 4 huge elements, I guess you could say, that we're required to provide for school districts. Those fall under the titles of administrative services, technology services, school improvement services, and special education services. The last group there, the special education services, are probably our biggest. It's our biggest department, and probably where most of the services we provide for the Creswell School District are. There are some changes. I guess I don't want to go through all the detail of the plan. I will give you some kind of high-level changes. The changes, and they're not surprising, but our school districts have asked us in this year to take a good hard look again at providing nursing services for schools. Our big districts have their own nurses, districts, as we get smaller in size, have not been able necessarily to maintain or to hold on to school nursing services. So as a service to our middle-sized and smaller school districts, we're looking to hire some nurses that the smaller and middle-sized districts can share in the cost. It's possible Creswell will not need a 1.0 full-time nurse, but might need a half-time or a three-quarter-time nurse, and therefore to pay for a full one doesn't make sense. So we're looking to put those services together for next year. And also what's been evident during this pandemic, it was evident before the pandemic, and that is that communication is such a key part of your connection to your community as a school district. Again, our larger districts have a communication officer that they've had on board. And the good news is that those districts have shared those communication officers when needed to smaller districts. I know that Superintendent Johnson, I think, has had the benefit of being able to get some help from those communication officers, but that's not really sustainable. As we move forward, our middle and smaller districts need more robust communication services. So added to this local service plan is that communication service element. Again, Creswell may not have your own communication service person, but you'll share somebody with some other districts, like-sized districts or other districts, and that'd be somebody that you can go to get direct communication services, as opposed to what we've been getting from the big districts. And we thank the big districts for what they've offered us, but again, it's just not sustainable. The third new service that we're looking into is providing attorney service for districts. All of you as boards have to pick an attorney of record every year, and you've already done that probably for this school year. What some of our middle-sized and small districts and larger districts too have been finding is that although we get great advice from some of our attorneys in the state, there are some really good ones, it's not always timely in terms of getting a response when you need it immediately. We've had to sit and wait in line sometimes. And we've seen some other ESDs offer attorney services for their component districts. Our districts have now asked us to look to offer that as well. So those are new. They'll be new on our menu, and you'll have an opportunity to choose to access those or not using the flex dollars that you'll have. Another big change in this plan is that it now includes the Student Success Act Comprehensive Plan. As a board, you've probably been familiar with your own district's student investment account plan. Some of those plans maybe were put on hold because of the pandemic, but there is money coming to support those plans. ESDs are also given money to support your plans. And so just like you guys had to go out and engage your community to find out what you need in your plan, our teams had to go out and engage your school personnel, your school district personnel, to find out what they needed. So we have a plan that matches somewhere all of our 16 districts. There are 5 strategies, and if you get a copy of our local service plan, if you look to a copy of our local service plan, we've included that at the end. It's kind of an appendix, although it's mentioned in the text of the local service plan. But we stand ready to support your districts. And just a reminder that the Student Success Act was designed to provide mental and behavioral supports for students, and also to try and bring about improved achievement for historically underserved students. So a lot of emphasis in terms of equity in this plan, a lot of emphasis in terms of supporting students' behavioral and emotional needs. And so to that end, the money we've got and our districts came through, and really the social emotional learning seemed to be the top point. And so we're looking to beef up our department in those areas to support districts. So that's I think the biggest change. That plan before was separate. It's now folded under the umbrella of the local service plan. So as we move forward every year, we'll be asking you to pass that included in the local service plan. And that's for those of you who've done the local service plan every year. I think that's important to note that that's another additional part of it. Outside the normal state school fund, it's in the Student Success Act funding. So with that, the other thing I'll add is that our Lane ESD school board passed this at our January 5th meeting. And now what we look to see is if our component school districts could vote on this by March 1st. And it's kind of, some districts are looking to do it when I come to the meeting, some wait till after I leave. I will say that I'm available to answer questions now, and also questions that you may have before and after March 1st about services we offer your students and your staff. So with that, are there any immediate questions for the local service plan for tonight? Okay. Lacey?
Thanks, Tony. When you talk about the new services like the nursing and the communication, and you say those are under consideration, or at least that's the verbiage in the plan, does that mean we've not gotten those hired and you will, or it's still under consideration?
Good question. You caught that little nuance. The nursing and communication, I think, are solid. I really do. I think
Okay.
we've done the nursing services before, and the communication is solid. We have not done the hiring for those yet. When this goes through, if this passes by March 1st, that sets us down a path of going out and looking to put those services together. The attorney services, I think we have, and we know we want it, but I don't know we have the actual price structure and cost of that. I think that's something that we're going to look into. And if it looks like that's a go, it'll be a go. But I think we're also at this point going to listen to our superintendents when we come back to them and have them say, we really looked into that, but man, the cost of that is more than what we thought. The price structure is really difficult to gauge. The communication folks, we can kind of see what the price is based upon what the salaries are in the bigger districts. The price for the nursing services, we kind of know we've done that service before. Attorneys work a little differently in different ESDs. The High Desert ESD has an attorney, but they've got a whole firm, but they share costs with other public entities in the Central Oregon area. So the schools only pay part of that, not all of it. Willamette ESD has an attorney, but and it's a retired person that they hire, and so the salary may be around that. And I think we need to kind of flesh that out a little more and see if the cost of that is value for our superintendent. So that's the one that may come back a little differently depending on what we find out. But I think nursing and communication are solid.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple more thoughts. I wanted to thank you for adding the librarian services for districts. I think we're good with our librarians. I know our schools have great ones, so I'm super thankful for them. I know other school districts, as we've talked in school board conferences, have really struggled with that. And I saw that we also have a tech analyst that's helping us in the background from the cyber attacks, because a couple of summers ago, I got a little bit nervous with all of the small districts, along the coast and in the valley that were getting hit. So I really appreciate you offering that service and helping us out there. And as when you were talking about the Support Act, the Student Success Act, and ESD receiving money to support the different districts in their plans, can you give me some examples of what that could look like?
Yeah, I can. So one of the things we're looking at is finding a way to kind of support the recruitment and preparation of diverse teaching candidates through certification and hiring, also through training. And so one of the things we noticed under that umbrella, it's kind of a broad umbrella that we're interpreting that way, but our paraprofessionals haven't always received the training that the work that they do probably deserves.
Okay.
So one of the things that we will be spending some money on this, actually out of this year, is to provide some professional development opportunities through the University of Oregon. Nancy Golden and her team there have put together some training videos and have some follow-up. And so it's kind of an opt-in process, but we've got money set aside that we've purchased that for districts. Probably more concretely than when we talk about social and emotional learning for students. I think there's things that the county offers that they do, things that we've tried to do. We're actually going to take some of the money we've gotten support and hire a point person for this. And it may even expand to an elementary person and a secondary person. This is such a pervasive need right now. And we know it's going to be even more important as we come out of this pandemic and get kids back more in person. Mm-hmm. So hiring somebody for that to specifically coordinate the things that are out there. And some of those things include some pretty heavy programs in terms of suicide prevention that the county does. And we just need that connection to make sure that it's getting to where it needs to get to. So I think those would be two examples. One is a kind of a professional development program, And the other is personnel that's going to be in charge of overseeing particular strategies that districts are working on.
Thank you. One more question, and then I'll let other folks ask some questions so I don't dominate your time. I remember in our plan, when Mike reached out to the community, we had multiple workshops throughout the fall. And one of the big trends running through from our community was getting more career pathways on the technical side through. And not being a huge school district, and having a really large high school, sometimes it's hard to hire 5 teachers to offer 5 different technical pathways. Are there opportunities where the ESD could help us, that if we need a half-time teacher and then they can go help another small school district? Or is that something that we kind of barter with other districts ourselves?
Yes and yes. And I looked at Mike Anderson on my screen here because Mike's been in several conversations with me about this.
Okay.
And so what we did last winter is we finalized a regional career technical education. We had a feasibility study, and out of that study, the result was that we don't really have the ability here in Lane County to build like a big skills center that you might see other places, where students can leave their high school for part of a week or part of a day and go to that skills center and then go back to their school. But it showed that we need to do more of that cooperative regional look at CTE for the exact reason you mentioned. You cannot hire 5 teachers to do it. Yeah. So some districts are forging on their own to find their neighbor and see how they can connect. But we're also working through our CTE department to make those connections. One thing that was done last year is that in our region now, there are, for each particular CTE strand, there's one regional advisory board. Every CTE program needs a regional advisory board. But in terms of Creswell having one and Pleasant Hill having one and Junction City having one, where it could be different industry people sitting on those boards, that seemed to be disconnected. So we've now put together regional advisory boards where there's more opportunity, I think, for that cooperation. The other thing is that's something we need to do this spring and summer, is really have those conversations about where those connections are. We were on a path to have a sample program, or kind of a pilot program on campus over the summer at Lane Community College, where we'd see students from different districts attending, and LCC's programs that also have some real strong CTE components, welcoming those high school students. It just couldn't happen because of the pandemic. So that's something that's not necessarily in the student support plan. It's not in the Student Success Act support plan. That's in our normal general education CTE department that sits inside that school improvement aspect. And also Connected Lane County, which is under our umbrella, is doing a lot of things in that area as well. They actually looks like they may have a site downtown in Eugene for kind of a maker space, and that's not just for 4J kids. That would be for other field trip opportunities and other things for kids. With that, we also know that there's other districts that have programs in place that would offer up seats for their neighbor, but we'll look to coordinate that for districts.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Tony, and thanks, Sherry, for joining us tonight as well.
Anything else tonight?
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I've been going to these Lane ESD meetings for quite a while, and I can tell you, 1, they're very well organized, and 2, they have programs for almost all of the meetings, and I'm amazed at what they do, and it's especially with the special needs area, the programs that they've come up with. It's just amazing. But hey, Tony, sometime when you have a minute, give me a call, because I think there's an opportunity out there for several different companies to step up and help you with that the CTE thing. Everybody I talk to is only running about 70% capacity because there's not enough people going to work. So it's a great opportunity for kids to go to get a job. And I think that if any technical knowledge, any classes that somebody needs to go to, those companies will pay for the classes that they have to go to. It's that the need for people is that desperate out there.
Mike, that's great to hear. I'll definitely call and follow up. Let's keep working on that. Thank
But,
you.
well, if there's no other questions, thank you guys very, very much. Sherry, it's great to hear your voice again. You guys take care and stick around for a minute because we're going to look at the vote here in a few minutes. So any other questions or comments? Okay, moving right along. Unfinished business. Information on posted policy feedback from the community on the policies JB, equal education opportunity, and JFCM, the threats of violence. Have we had any public comment back on any of those? Has anybody heard anything?
I've not heard anything, Mike.
Okay, well, if not, then we can move right along to the action to approve the posted policies JB, equal education opportunity, and then JFCM, the threats of violence. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I move to approve the two policies that we have posted, the JB education or equal education opportunity and the JFCM threats of violence policies.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second out there?
David raised his hand and said second, but he was on mute.
Oh, okay.
I saw that.
Oh,
Second,
it's
Mike.
been moved and seconded. Okay, I can't see on my screen, David. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, we got it. Thank you very, very much. Okay, new business action, approve Lane ESD service plan. Do I have a motion out there?
I move that we approve the Lane ESD service plan for the 2021 to 2023.
All righty,
Second.
thank you. Do you have a second?
I second.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. All right, it's moved and seconded. Any questions, any further questions or anything? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we carried it. Well, thank you very much.
Tony and Sherry, you're welcome to stay on with us, but if you have other things you need to do this evening, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the support. too.
Thanks for your
Any
support.
other questions at all, just let us know. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming by. Okay, moving right along, discussion, reopening schools update. Mike, you want to take the floor?
First, I'd like to express my appreciation to the school board for your service to the community. I know it takes time away from your families and other activities that you have in your personal lives. And your commitment to this community and the time that you put into supporting this district is to be commended, each of you. It takes a lot out of your lives to do this work. And it's all voluntary. And it's a tough job to do. But to continue on with it demonstrates your dedication to kids and your commitment to making sure that Creswell School District is doing what's right for kids. So thank you very much. To start off with the reopening efforts, I'd just like to say that, you know, the staff and the leadership of the district, our school administrators and directors have done an amazing job to put us in the position that we're in. To be able to support students and provide an education online in a system that we weren't even close to having 8 months ago in March. It was null as far as a system built on technology to educate kids. We had none. And equipment, we had none. Education platforms, we didn't have them. And you know, we're at a position now where we're providing one of the better online programs out there in districts. And we've uploaded an academy to support our students at home and parents who homeschool. our staff has gone from not being anywhere near providing education online to doing an excellent job at it. And they've worked extremely hard to get here. And all of our directors and building administrators and district administrators have put everything they've had into where we're at. And because of it, you know, we've been able to continue to work at a higher level, which was demanded by our community and our staff when we surveyed them last summer. The survey is saying that we need to improve with our online instruction program. 95% of our staff, that was the feedback from them last summer. And overwhelmingly, that was the feedback from our parents and students. We surveyed all, and that was their input. And we got after it. And we worked through vacations, weekends. We had teachers in here before their contracted days were in, paid them extra to come in to do the training. And as one whole district, we got together on it. And we've continued with it. Our staff is still in training with online education because we want to get better. We want to be the best that we can possibly be. And to this day, we're still in professional development on strategies for online instruction and best practices and learning how to use our platforms more efficiently and effectively to engage our kids. I couldn't imagine that a staff could pull that off. I really couldn't. And I have to tell you that they're all top notch. Every staff member of this district. And the leadership team, I have never had the skill set that this leadership team has of this district. They're amazing people. As far as reopening schools, all education governance is driven by the director of education, the superintendent of education, which is Governor Brown. Governor Brown is our superintendent of education. And our director of education in the Oregon Department of Education is Colt Gill. So Kate Brown is the superintendent of education. What she says goes. Colt Gill makes it happen. That's how it works. All districts are advised, have been advised to follow all guidance and rules from ODE, OSHA, the governor's executive orders, and any other guidance or rules that apply to school districts through this pandemic. This includes the metrics and the recommended learning modes in the metrics thresholds. We're directed to follow those and all the other guidance of all those other agencies. All superintendents have been involved in intensive training to assess all guidance and rules to determine when and what moves they could make and when they should make them. This was not in our training before COVID-19 last March. In fact, this was in our training as of August. We've been retrained every time the governor's order, ODE guidance, and health authority recommendations change. There have been 4 significant changes to the direction from all of those agencies and the governor. And I don't know, hundreds of significant or minor changes within those 4 major changes or shifts in the metrics from OHA, in the guidance to address the metrics from ODE, and the governor's direction into the modes for instruction. This has all happened in the last 5 months. It's a lot of movement in 5 months to look for the new target, adjust to the new target, and line up to it. Every district is unique with unique circumstances and needs, for sure. The Creswell School District has several different unique needs, but one of our majority needs is to support our students and families in poverty, over 50% of our district. Adding in the high numbers of students that we have in special education and English language learners, we have a unique demographic within our student population. Immediately following the governor's announcement on December 23rd, all superintendents were called to order to have a meeting with Colt Gill. Jim Green from OSBA was also in that meeting, and school district's legal counsel was provided by OSBA. Any district that moved from the metrics at that point, as of December 25th, when we were given that message, would put us out of alignment with guidance and the recommendations from ODE and OHA, which would mean that we would be exposing ourselves to uninsured liabilities as provided by House Bill 4402 that was passed in December. The legislature passed that law, and that law was passed based on the current metrics that we have right now for liability coverage. In Creswell, we have been in compliance with all laws, guidance, state and ODE directives, state and local health authorities, and governor's orders since last March. Additionally, we adhered to the governor's state of emergency directives and procedures resulting from the hazardous air quality resulting from the wildfires just before Labor Day and the start of our 2020 school year. Lane County was directed simultaneously to CDL by the governor and ODE based on the positive case counts in Lane County. The county currently remains under that directive, as do all counties across the state that fall into those metrics. We have a situation in CSD that mandates we include Eugene and Springfield and their positive case counts in our local assessment, because more than 10% of our district staff reside in those communities and commute to work here. And also 50% or so of our population work in those communities. It's quite a high number to consider. That's well above the 10% threshold described by the state when you're considering other communities in your assessment for returning students to school. At the direction of the governor, the metrics and positive case counts have been provided directly to superintendents from local health authorities each Monday. Originally, superintendents were provided with only county metric counts with a requirement to follow them. They directed our learning modes. In November, the health authorities were directed to provide superintendents with local district metric numbers to be used in combination with county metrics for assessing our positive case count patterns. We were given a little bit more information on how we could look at data on positive case counts in our community. Local district information is provided. We get the reports, but those reports are prohibited for public distribution. That's just the way it is from OHA and our Lane County Health. Superintendents have been instructed to follow all case count numbers for 3 consecutive weeks to look for, and that's within our community or beyond, case count patterns moving up or down for the virus spread. It has only been in the last 3 weeks that Creswell case counts have been in a declining pattern. Although we currently are in the extreme risk category still, along with with Lane County. Due to the declining case count pattern in the past 3 weeks for Creswell, we have had an opportunity to move to limited in-person instruction on site and athletics, conditioning, and workouts. Approximately half of the districts in Lane County has these in place or have had prior to winter break, and the remainder have plans to move forward with limited in-person instruction and possibly athletic workouts and conditioning programs. But not all have been able to go there by this time. We are. This is what a Creswell case count, active case count, and current assessment is with positive case counts in Creswell. So I get these every Monday, and they're a 2-week look back. So 3 consecutive reports going back 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, we had 630 cases per 100,000 in Creswell. The threshold is 200 is the cutoff for extreme. When you factored our case counts, active cases in Creswell 3 weeks ago into the 100,000 population count, which is how it's all set up through OHA and our local health authorities, 630 is a high number for a small community, 630 per 100,000. Last week's report was 419 per 100,000. Still extremely high for extreme risk in this community. This Monday, we were at 221 per 100,000. Still in the extreme category. But in my assessment, this was the first 3-week run, consecutive run, where we had declining case counts, where we could make a move on bringing in-person contact on campus for students. So we had a plan to make a move for Lippy, and we've had that plan in place since last October. But we have not had a pattern of declining case counts where we could move that plan in place. And for students on campus as well. Additionally, we had no liability coverage for COVID-related cases or injuries that were caused or spread on campus. None until December. And we got that passed, and now the new order by the governor is being reviewed by state legal counsel and district legal counsel to determine how the new metrics review would be covered through the state liability protection by law. That hasn't been resolved yet. This is what I get for the county counts. And in this one here, 3 weeks ago in the county, it was over 500 cases per 100,000, or somewhere close to that. And it went down on one report to 250, which was last week, but it's going back up to 284 per 100,000. And remember, 200 is the cut line for extreme risk and directing districts into distance learning. So in looking at the county, as I must, because we have more than 10% of our staff that live there and commute here. So they're bringing their community that they live in with them when they come to work, so to speak. And we have 50% of our workforce in our community that go to those communities every day and bring back what's in those communities. That community and their case count and then county is important to us. It has to be a consideration. It's required. It's over 10%. We're at 50% all the way around. But in looking specifically at our Creswell counts and pattern, in my assessment, we have a window to start moving some stuff in on campus. And so this week we've added athletic conditioning and workouts, which was the plan well before winter break. It just needed to happen on a descending count of virus in our community. Now, 5 months ago, I didn't know how to assess any of this, but this is what I've been trained to do. With the knowledge of 160 requirements that are in the state guidance for having anyone on campus or on public school property, they all have to be adhered to. They haven't changed. I hear a lot about P Hill out there, a lot of chatter about, well, P Hill's able to do this and able to do that. And as I stated earlier, districts are unique. Some districts have poverty. Some districts don't. You know, getting computers and training kids up on devices was critical for us to be successful with online learning. In fact, every district was directed to have a distance learning plan in place last summer by the state, or the superintendent of the state, Kate Brown, Governor Brown. And so we got our distance learning plan in place, and our plan to distribute devices to all kids, our plan to prepare internet connectivity for all kids, our plan to train staff up online platforms, a plan to embed curriculum on those online platforms, and our plans to provide supports for all kids from distance learning, which is what we were instructed to do. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't have been able to start school on the calendar. We were one of very few districts on the I-5 corridor that were able to open schools within a reasonable day or so of our opening date for students. We were a week and a half to 2 weeks ahead of other districts that they weren't ready to open up online, and their communities were shut down from the hazardous smoke conditions. The air quality, it was severely extreme, and we had a state of emergency. But we opened up, and we were so excited because we could do that. Because of that, we didn't have to extend our school year into the summer to make up the days that were lost when schools were canceled at the beginning of the school year, because we were prepared for online instruction. We just did what we were supposed to do. Snow days, we did miss a couple of days of instruction at the beginning. So we've been making those up with professional development days online. And if we have any freezes or snow days, we'll use those too, just to be able to provide more instruction that might have been missed at some point at the beginning of the year. That's our responsibility. That's what we're doing. Looking at a couple of districts, I pulled some data, and I can't get this report on other districts. It comes to me specific for Creswell. I don't get this report on P Hill or Cottage Grove or any of them. But I did was able to get some numbers from Lane County Health. And to date, we have 219 cases that have been tested positive in the Creswell community. 219 to date. The week before Thanksgiving, we had, I barely hit double digits, but that's how fast it spread here in Creswell. To be compared to P Hill, who has 42 total cases all time, we have 5 times the cases in our community, positive test cases in our community, than P Hill has had. And if you look to Lowell, they've had 22 all-time cases, total positive cases. We have 10 times the number of them. So we have had some pretty risky situation going on here in Creswell. And you know, my commitment is to provide a safe environment for students and staff. And in my assessment, I've done the best to my ability. I'll continue to do that. I want kids in school. I love kids. We all do. That's why we do this. You do. That's why you're on the board. And I feel for our teachers. They want to very badly. Teachers are people too. They have families, they have underlying conditions, and their fear for their families just as much as anyone else out there. But they want kids bad. Their passion is to be with kids. Because of that passion, we're moving on-site instruction. We've been cautioned by ODE to move slow. Well, who wouldn't when you see the risks that you're faced with? But we do have a plan to grow it, on-site instruction. We didn't have to start athletics this week. We weren't called to start athletics by OSAA until February. But our kids need that engagement. In my assessment, looking at the declining numbers on case counts, this was our first opportunity, I feel, to do it in the safest time possible that I've seen in months. And we're there. Our kids are on campus and they're in their workouts and activities. We've designed an intramurals program for our middle school kids and high school kids to participate in. And we're working there. That's in our plan. We want to see that happen within the next couple of weeks. We're not ever thinking about what we're doing without kids on the forefront of our minds, all of us. And we're doing the best damn job we can do. That's my report.
Any questions out there? Candace?
Sorry, I have to unmute myself. Mike, I apologize if you said this. The numbers we get from Creswell, who do we obtain those from?
Lane County Health Department.
Okay, thank you.
And just a little history on that with Lane County Health Department, because of the demands, the spread is so fast. They don't have the person power, the capacity to be able to take all those tests, those positive tests, and input them into their data every day. They are 4 to 7 days behind on inputting. So when we see a count, it's lower than what the actual positive cases out there are. They're 4 days to 7 days behind. I've received reports as far as staff or students who tested positive 10 days after I've been informed by the staff or students that they tested positive. So when we're talking about contact tracing, because we've also been assigned that, or I've been assigned to set up a mechanism to conduct contact tracing for students and staff in our community, but I'm being notified 4 to 7 days after the fact that the test came across positive, and then trying to trace where the contacts have been is a little bit of a challenge. But we've been managing it. It's just a lot of effort for me on my end to reach out to Lane County Health and say, I got a name, what do you got? And when the data comes through on the test assessment, then they get back to me. But even though they're looking for the name, it could take them a couple of days to find it and report it.
Is there an opportunity for us to have that data more available to the community? It's definitely not data I knew was available or out there. I was looking at 4J's website. It looks like it's something that they make available to families. Is that something we can make available to families to have a better understanding?
I think with the 4J site, they're making available the county rates.
Correct, they are.
And that's the report that I've been sending you all.
Right.
Yeah, that one. So yeah, I can get that up on the site, sure.
Okay.
There's another, oh, sorry, Candace.
No, please go ahead, Ashley.
I just Googled Lane County school metrics, and I was able to pull the current metrics for every county. You can pull, it's a Power BI thing through the Lane County Health Department, and you can go by, you can select the county that you want to see, and it shows the current cases. This hasn't been updated since 1/4, which is kind of what you were saying, Mike, is it takes a little bit of time, but that is a really easy resource. If we could push that out to families somehow, that it's super easy to pull up and see where we currently stand. Also, the Lane County Health Department website lists by zip code, and I think that's updated every Monday or Tuesday. So you're able to see on there by zip code how many cases there are.
And one of one of their data points that they send out to us, we haven't received since before winter break. And it's just, they're overwhelmed with what, now they're trying to design a vaccine distribution plan. And the same people that do this data and enter all this information is now being pulled to do the vaccine plan. And they'll be working on the vaccine distribution plan for a day or two. Then they're pulled back over here to work on the test positive data and entry. And they're just shorthanded and overworked by far. They're doing a great job. They're good people over there. But this is over the capacity that we have as a system in our health industry. Speaking of vaccines, though, we'll ask you other questions, but I do have some good news to report on vaccines.
Mike, I was actually just going to ask about the governor's update today on teachers being able to get vaccinations starting January 25th. So if you have more information to share or thoughts, that would be good to hear.
Glad you asked. Yes. Yesterday, Colt Gill informed us, the governor made her message, delivered her message out there about moving teachers up into the 1A group. The federal government made their announcement as well, and they moved 65 or older into the 1A group. So now prior to that, the 1A group had 500,000 people in it. And we had 100,000 vaccines out. Now 1A group has close to 1 million, or half the population of the state. That's where 1A is, and that's where we fall in as educators. Colt Gill informed us yesterday that we are now the district I don't know how to put this, but vaccine distribution clinic. And that we're to design plans to distribute the vaccine to staff, either with Lane County Health or by our own means. We are moving forward with that. The vaccines will be available by the state on the 23rd. We don't know when Lane County is going to get their distribution and when Lane County is going to put that out to the other small distribution sites. But what I did today was began to develop a plan with Nurse Melissa and then Joel and the fire department on how we could build the capacity within our staff, because we have to provide the staff. They provide the vaccine, we have to provide the staff. They provide the training for administering the vaccine and the observations of the reactions after the vaccine. So we're working on that plan there on setting up a distribution clinic. I also put together a message to go out to all staff so that I could get an accurate number to request vaccines from Lane County. The accurate number of staff who want to get a vaccine. And I processed that with our associations, which, you know, that's what we do. We collaborate. Processed it with them, and I got word from both of them during this meeting that they approved the message, and they're very excited to get this set up. So we'll send the survey out tomorrow. Our plans will come together tomorrow on some of the development around designing a clinic and getting the number of personnel that we need in it to support it. And I submit that plan into Lane County Health. Lane County Health then determines if we can have our own individual clinic. Well, it's not really our individual clinic. We just set it up in district, but I have invited other districts to come in on the plan because we'll facilitate it here for some of the districts up here in our area, in the outlying area of Eugene 4J. Eugene and Bethel offer to provide that clinic access for us. But when we look at when the vaccines would be distributed, they could be distributed all at once. Well, 4J would then have to accommodate their employees or staff before outside staff districts could get in. And that would put us a week behind that distribution time. So we want to have, it's important that we have another clinic of our own out here that we can present as an alternative to having something in Eugene Springfield for our staff. That's the exciting news. It's taken a lot of work. I've never designed a vaccine clinic before, but this is with all of these kind of requirements and nuances, but hey, you know, I like a challenge. This is fun. So we'll get it together. It's coming together already. Yep.
Lacey, go ahead.
Well, if we're providing the staff time, is any of the funding for that going to come, especially from that emergency board that the governor also talked about funding?
We haven't, that was not provided for us yesterday. We may down the road get reimbursement, but what we're going to, and I'm going to work on a vaccine administration schedule to bring staff in and get them vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And we'll see. I think because we have our online schedule that we can schedule it in offline hours and rotate staff through because our school schedules are staggered. Mm-hmm. That's my thought process anyway. And we may be open on a Saturday. That's to clean it up and just so that we get it all done in 1 week or a few days.
Mm-hmm. So what is that emergency board funding that the governor talked about putting, you know, tens of millions of dollars in there to support school functions?
Well, we haven't seen that yet. we've been told about the amount, and Tony might know because they communicate with Lane ESDs, and we get a lot of that information filtered to us through Lane ESD. And but they haven't really provided the amount that we're going to get per district. We've been told that it would be more than what we received in our initial ESSER amount,
Okay.
which we burned through really quickly. But, you know, well, actually, there are a couple of things. One of the things that we'll need to invest in is personnel, because one of the requirements to reopen or to open schools to on-site instruction is testing. President Biden has put out that all schools will be testing on site at least once a week, everyone. But we heard yesterday that that could be a daily test administration, COVID test administration of the biotest, which takes 15 minutes to get results. So that means everybody that's on a campus gets tested every day. That's another nuance to opening schools to on-site instruction. Is Tony still out there?
Yeah, I'm still here, Mike.
Did you hear anything else about that 420 million that's going out to public education?
No, the only thing we've heard is that for school districts, you could be looking at about, I think they said 4 times the amount of ESSER funds that you received previously. I'd caution more in the 3 times area.
Right.
I always go down a little bit. And it'll be based, a proportion will be based on your title allotment because it is federal money. But yeah, I don't know what your allotment was, but if you figure 3 to 4 times as much as what you got before, that's what you'll get. Uses, this time we still are waiting to get the details. So I don't know the amount or the details of it. That hasn't been shared yet. Mike, you know as much as I do on that.
So another thing that we're looking on spending that money, and as superintendents, we've been discussing this across the county and the state in different chats. But because of the cohort sizes that are required with 35-foot distancing and in the protocols, that means added staff, teachers. So we have to look at additional hires. Not only that, but supervisors throughout the campus. So classified people. We're going to have to hire both to accommodate on-site instruction.
Just a basic question. I guess I assumed that money was going to come to districts based upon what their actual costs are. So more like a reimbursement side, but it's sounding like it's more of an algorithm. It's an already predetermined calculation based upon a few factors.
It will be, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I didn't understand that about the funding.
Yeah, we're learning about it. And we may be told what we're going to have to do with some of it. And then we're going to have some flexibility with some of it. Like, it's kind of like the SIA grant. At first, we had some flexibility with those dollars. Then the state narrowed it down that these are the things that you need to be providing for historically disadvantaged groups of students. And they just kept narrowing it down into it. And they'll do the same with this funding. Mm-hmm. That's the trend. That's what I've seen. Tony, you think?
Yeah, I think we'll get some discretion, but typically they'll have some. It'll be earmarked, and I think Lacey also mentioned the governor's plan. There's a ESSER, then there's a GEAR, and I don't know what all the GEAR stands for, but the governor did set aside a significant amount of money. I think it's in the $40-50 million neighborhood. But that we haven't seen the distribution on, nor the exact expenditure. So it's coming. So I guess the good news is there is more money coming. But I think you're hearing Mike talking exactly about you got to start spending some of it now, and there'll be a reimbursement mechanism for it. So that means it's a little bit of a guess, but I think we know the ballpark area of reopening schools. If you're hitting that, the ESSER funds were a little wider. I think they're still going to have some of it with.
Okay, so we're going to go on faith that we're going to get money, hopefully sometime by the end of this school year from the state government, and we're going to go ahead and expend it now. Are there actually teachers still to hire? I
No.
know in the fall when Mike was putting together plans to do like A, B, C, D, or E, he had a dozen plans out there. One of them, I mean, many of them required just having substitutes. So when a teacher had to quarantine, we had a substitute to help something else, but there was no substitutes to hire. So how do we do this if there's literally no more teachers in the supply chain?
Well, some of the districts that are attempting this are only able to accommodate 50% of their student enrollment. Period. So until they get the staff in, they can't bring the students in. That's one
Okay.
approach.
And because of the cohort limitations, even if we put half of our students in the morning and half at night, the teacher that's touching both, we end up getting limited on the cohort, right?
The teacher's limited on the cohort, and so are the hours, the work hours.
Okay, and the buses are a cohort as well, right? And we can't have a school without a busing option.
For kids, right? That's their first cohort if they ride the bus.
Okay.
I have one question. Is like, one thing I don't understand fully on the cohorts is like the morning bus a cohort and the afternoon bus a cohort, or do they bus them all together so it counts as one?
No, it's one group in a bus. So like we'll just say they pick up a group of 15 students because that's what they can put in a bus with social distancing. So those 15 students are in one cohort. When they go into their classroom, those 15, that's the second cohort they go into. That's the limit. So when you're looking at high school kids that are riding a bus and then showing up to school to go to a cohort, to go to class, they get one cohort there.
Ashley, one thing to keep in mind too is you might recall that under normal circumstances, you might have a student like in the afternoon, they're staying with a friend, so they ride home on that bus. We can't allow that because that, to answer your question about the cohorting, the same cohort applies in the morning for the afternoon bus run. We can't change the bodies
Okay.
on it.
Okay, thank you for explaining that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I just really wanted to take a moment and thank your principals for sending out their communication this week. The chart that they had at the beginning of their email that explained the difference between Lippy and hybrid was super helpful because I was still confused that they literally were not the same thing. And so being able to see that the hybrid applied for 100% of our population and the Lippy was for a limited number of students, that was a really key point. And so I thought their matrix that kind of outlined the difference was really well done. And so thank you, principals, for thinking about the simplicity and communicating with us. I appreciated those.
Yeah, hey, this is David. And thank you, Lacey, for sharing that. I wanted to tag on to that because I wanted to share the same thing to our building administrators because the communication that you're sending out for us, it really helps us understand better what's happening. And I just really appreciate the administrators for their ability to communicate so strongly. And it's just so clear the passion that you guys have, each of you have for children and for our staff. And I appreciate these meetings where I can see you guys. You know, I look at Amy Hallie and, you know, she's just sitting there and she's smiling and she's not even smiling, right? You know, she's just like, I just feel the love. I feel the passion. And I just look at you leaders and I'm like, you know, we're so blessed to have you in Creswell and how you feel. And I did want to just say to Johnson, I call him Johnson, but Mr. Johnson, really appreciated the report this evening because most of you guys know my world since March has been COVID, being a manager in supply chain for 4 campuses at Peace Health. I wanted to say thank you, Mike, for the way you put your report together. and that the way you were able to share it out in lay terms for pretty much, I think everybody would be able to understand the numbers and the severity of this. I can tell you, we have been experiencing record numbers since Christmas at Peace Health, and we have opened up additional COVID units. It has created, a lot of different change in processes, but this is a real pandemic. It's very real, and I just wanted to say thank you, Mike, for being able to share out this information for everyone to hear, and for us to also hear again how unique and our district is, because we are so dynamic and so diverse. So thank you all. I just got to tell you, I'm an old timer, that I love hearing passion from educators. And, even if you're an administrator, I can still feel that, wow, you love being a teacher because you love these kids and you love your staff. But thank you.
Thank you, David.
Just one, this is more of an impromptu question for our principals that are on. As you've started calling families to invite them in, are the calls going well? Are families wanting to come on? I'm assuming they're like just ecstatic.
They are. We have 40 right now on our start list, and I've made either left messages or contacted them, and we have 29 at the high school, and every parent was very excited, and I'm happy to talk to parents and excited to see kids.
Okay, thank you for that, Jenny.
Yeah, the elementary school, we've, between Christy Nicholson and myself, we've contacted 37 parents, or parents of 37 kids, I should say. We have some sibling groups in there. We have 10 confirmed yeses. We have 17 no's, no thank yous, and 10 that we're still waiting to communicate with. There still are a lot of parents who are not ready for their kids to be in the mass public with their peers because of COVID at this time. And then there's a few that just didn't feel like they wanted to upset their current schedule. Things were going as well as it could. So, but all in all, yes, the parents are really wonderful and very appreciative of what we're trying to do. And yeah, they're going well.
Okay. And as you get the no's, I'm assuming you've got a deeper list. You can just keep working through to try to grab as many students into the building.
Absolutely. So at the elementary school, we started with, we described it in our letter. So we rated all of the needs. We gave a 5-point scale. So I started with the 4s and 5s, and then from there, then scooped in our 3s and some 2s. So we're going down the needs list for all of the kiddos who have been identified as having some struggle with internet connectivity. And then right now, our staff, we're looking at our phase 2. We don't have a definite date yet picked, obviously, because there's a lot of variables right now, but we're in the planning phases of who those students are, how many days we'd bring them in and for what. And so the teachers and our instructional staff right now are working on identifying some students for those possible afternoon cohorts that we'll look at here in the future.
Thank you.
Julie's not on the line, right? No. She's been after it pretty hard to get kids in, and similar to what Amy's experiencing, she's getting some parents that are declining to send their kids to school, but she's backfilling those and those spots. One thing I did want to mention that I didn't mention earlier about the protocols. They're all being reviewed right now in the guidance, in the SSL guidance. And so we've been told by Colt Gill, I mentioned earlier, he said, go slow, because all of those protocols are under review, and they're reviewing the 35-foot or, distancing, 6-foot square distancing around all individuals. The the cohort sizes, how many cohorts in a day. I've asked for 4 to get more kids in. That was my proposal, 4 cohorts a day, and cohort sizes up to 25 is what I've asked for. And but all of those protocols have not been communicated to us on what's going to remain and what's going to change. So designing or adjusting our blueprints for in-person instruction now would cause us more work because we're going to have to realign them when that comes out on the 19th. So in all districts, all superintendents were told that yesterday by Colt Gill. You don't know what you're aiming at right now because we haven't gone through the guidance yet. And we will get that information out to you the evening of the 19th. Well, we asked for the afternoon at least, and we were told you'll get it in the evening. So, so a lot of what Amy and what the principals are doing as far as getting groups together is what we could absolutely count on. But we may be more flexible when we get in after that January 19 date. So we're prepared to again, shift, pivot, well, however you want to call it, whiplash if it goes the other direction. But it won't be the last change that comes out for sure. And the governor will have another order at some point. We don't know what it'll be, but we know it's going to change. It's changed 4 times in 5 months. And our businesses in the community know that. They can attest to that. And their instability of being able to have customers in and closing down and having them in and take out only, that's what we would be doing with our kids if we were in, out. And, you know, that's disruptive. So we want to plan for stability.
Last question, I think. I have seen the fields being actively used, which makes me happy this week. We've seen kids out playing. Do we have any update on middle school sports, whether they're going to begin to resume soon, at least with like making them run the track, doing something?
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. And this is a good segue because I should mention that we have a new athletic director for the middle school. And that is Brandon Standridge.
Ruby.
So Brandon, tell him what you got, man.
So essentially we've been meeting, talking essentially to mirror the high school schedule, and have them take a lead and see what guidance and things come from the high school OSAA. I have my next meeting on the 19th for the middle school, where we'll finalize schedules and take a look at who's going to play. We were sent a survey to see who was interested in participating. I know some of the Eugene schools probably won't. It sounded like they weren't interested in having middle school where mostly some of the private schools, where most of the public schools were still interested. So we'll be having stuff sent out after the 19th, as well as once I know what those schedules look like. But all inclinations that we'll have, like I said, similar to the high school, a little bit shorter season than normal, but the calendar should mimic the high school one pretty closely.
And are there options with athletics that even if we don't like competitively play, we're still out there helping? Because at middle school, it's really learning the sports, practicing. And so even if we just play ourselves and limit the exposure, we're still getting them out there and getting them experience.
Yeah, and Mike alluded to that a little bit in his report that, you know, we're going to do some intramural things. I've been working with him on a calendar for various sports, you know, traditional ones, football, basketball, volleyball, depending on the guidance, but also maybe some fun ones like dodgeball, ultimate frisbee, you know, so we're working on that. And, you know, not for people that, you know, just want to get out and be active or get out and have some fun, and, you know, have some tournaments and things like that, depending on what that guidance looks like, and have different levels of competition. So if you're want to be serious, you can play some people that want to be serious, and if you don't want to be serious, you can play some people that just are out there having fun like yourself. So
Okay, thank you for doing that. I think our kids will love that.
yes.
Yeah.
very much.
So this is David, and congratulations, Brandon. Great job at the middle school. And I got to tell you, I've been hiring these couple football players for the Bulldogs, right? I bleed red for Bulldogs. But anyway, some of us love sports, some not so much. But anyway, these kids that have been working for us, I only have to ask them just a couple of questions, and they are so pumped about football. And it is just exciting to just listen to these boys. And they're starving, they're like craving, they miss sports so much, and they have had so much time on their hands, and I don't know, my dad used to tell us, you got to play sports because boys that don't play sports get too much time on their hands, get in trouble. It's true. I used to tell my girls, hey, you boyfriends, they don't play sports, you can't go out with them, right? But I gotta tell you, these kids, it's just like they're so excited, and they're telling me about their first game, and David, are you gonna come? And I'm like, I'm gonna be there. I'm like, what's your number? Well, I don't know yet, but I like this number. And it was just so exciting. And I don't know, I just love hearing that you are going to, Brandon, you're gonna help the middle school and just help these kids like get some energy out, even if, like Lacey said, so you have a little intramural sports program, like let them run, run like the wind. But I mean, it's exciting to hear kids are going to have some new options. So I really, really appreciate this all so much. But someday I'm going to show you these two boys that are just hyper about football season. So go Bulldogs. Go Tigers. Go Mustangs.
So yeah, that's really good news. David, we want to focus forward.
I have a question. I have a question about sport. Sorry. And it's for Brandon specifically. Brandon, earlier this week, the Oregon Athletic Coaches Association started a letter writing campaign to the governor, specifically about return to play. We need that governor's order changed to really allow our kids to compete later in the next couple months. So I noticed some other schools, not even locally, just people I know in the state are their athletic departments are getting behind this and sending it out to parents. Is that something we're interested in doing? Because I would be interested in us doing it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we got it. I think yesterday or Monday, I got the email. Supposed to be completed by the end of the month. To send in. I was like a lot of things we said tonight, kind of waiting to see what happens.
Fair enough.
Tuesday, because we had a League AD meeting today, and one of the things that we were told was some of the sports stuff are going to be changed potentially on Tuesday as well.
Okay.
And with football starting on February 8th, and right now technically not allowed by the governor, that has to change at some point in the pretty near future for us to make this happen. So
right, that's why I asked. Yeah.
So I was kind of holding off on that to talk to coaches about until we see that, because if it's a moot point, then it may not be needed. But if they need one final push, so essentially we have the guidance on the 19th that gets released, and then the next big OSA meetings on February 7th or 8th.
Okay.
And so that those are the two big ones that they're gonna push for. So I was gonna wait till Tuesday. If that changed in our favor, then like I said, it may not be needed. If not, then we'll look at making that kind of final push.
Yeah, and I would ask, as a volunteer coach myself in this community, that if we don't hear more back on Tuesday, I really do think we should get behind this as a district and get it out to our community members.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you, Brandon, for helping getting all this organized to start practices this week. It's been a blast to see the kids.
Yeah, it's been really cool seeing the kids. Even Tuesday when it was pouring down rain, and they were still super excited to be there. So
Yeah, we practiced outside of the elementary school. It's great. Yeah, so thank you.
But Candace, that's why it's been stop and go since last summer.
Yeah.
with the directives and the changes in the protocols and the metrics and everything with athletics included. And so when Brandon and I got together and started talking about what's going on and how we could provide something that would be withstand all the changes, and we discussed the intramural program, even if they pulled back on us, we could still move forward and have activities for kids that are in those sports until they bring that season around. So we, regardless of what they do, we're still going to continue to engage kids in activities.
And I'm excited for that, and I'm totally on board. I just also, the competitive spirit in me wants us to have a season for these kids as much as we can. So I'm behind you, whatever you need us to do to help, with the campaign or anything that we can do, let me know.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All righty. Well, Mike, well, thank you very, very much for that. Do you want to say a few things about the SIA?
Yeah, they, as I was mentioning earlier, ODE has put out some new information about how we're going to be awarded SIA funds and what we're required to do for it. And, we're already set up for it. From our strategic planning process, we have a team, a community-wide team that's diverse and has all stakeholders and constituents from within our community. And we'll go back to that team and provide them with an SIA report of what we've already implemented, but where we're going next. And that will be our sounding board, and we'll bring that back to our design team. Our design team will then write up the goals or reestablish the goals and the plan based on the priorities that the state sets. And then we'll send that back into the state to get our funding. So we have a system already in place from the strategic planning process and committees in place, students included. So we'll be able to jump right into that and access those funds as soon as they're made available to districts.
Mm-hmm.
The design team, we were already planning to meet anyway. And now I'm going to kind of move some things forward with the strategic planning team itself, the committee of over 40 people, and get them engaged into it. They were our original advisors anyway, and start it up.
Okay, great. Any questions for Mike on that? Comments or anything? Okay, moving right along. Budget committee. We have a vacancy, of 3 people, Marilyn? Is that what we're short? Are you on mute?
I was. Yes, there's 3 vacancies.
Okay, will you, if any of you know or have any ideas of anybody that'd like to help out, Marilyn, are you going to put that on our website that we have that, open that up? And they
Yes.
send in an application, right?
Yes, and I will also send it to the Chronicle, is what we've done in the past.
Okay,
So we will set a date and a deadline for time. And if you'd like, it'd probably be easier this time if they want to email their letters to me.
okay,
Will that work?
all right.
So can I ask some questions? Sorry.
Sure.
If we have someone that we think should apply, do we just send them to the website and they can get the application there, or what's the most appropriate way?
I would think so. Marilyn, when's that going to go on the website? Tomorrow?
Let me see, just a second here.
And Mike, you have this as an action item, which I think means you're gonna need to make a motion about it. Unless you're
Oh,
changing.
to post it?
Yeah, you have it
Okay.
on the agenda as an action item to post.
Okay,
We can't officially do anything until we make a motion and then pass that in order to.
Right.
okay, all right.
I
Do we have a
apologize.
motion that we post for budget committee vacancies?
I move that we post 3 vacant budget committee vacancies and open them as early as tomorrow or whenever is feasible.
I'll second.
Okay, it's first and second. Great, thank you. Okay, discussion. So Marilyn, we can get that up next couple days.
Yes, and I'll send it to the Chronicle. Usually we have it in 2 consecutive weeks in the Chronicle. And it'll give information about what's required.
Marilyn, do you want me to send you a message or a notice that I've written up and you can use it, or do you have one already?
I do have one, but I can share that with you. If you'd rather use yours, that's fine, whatever you'd like. But I can share that with you.
I'll
Yes.
send you mine.
So this is David. So I think most of you guys know, historically, these positions are sometimes really a challenge to fill. We historically we struggle to get people to apply for these. It's not a huge commitment of time. It helps you understand the budget process, but I would ask all of us to, network a little bit, think of some people who maybe they're looking for a little something to get involved with. Maybe they're not, but it's a great opportunity. It's a good community thing. It's great for the district. But I'm telling you what, this is not they're tough to fill sometimes. So I would encourage all of us to network a bit.
Okay.
Mike,
Go ahead, Marilyn.
so just to give everyone new on the board a little bit more information about what it would say, to be eligible for appointment, a candidate must live in the district, not be an officer or employee of the district, and be a qualified voter of the district. Interested patrons should submit a letter explaining their reasons for wishing to serve on the budget committee, along with a short resume. So those were some items that we request.
Marilyn, I apologize if we talked about this last time, but we have 3 openings. Can you email us who is still on the budget committee so I don't go and ask some of those people to join us again?
Sure, yeah.
Because I will harass a couple of them if it's who I think it is.
Okay, well, remember we had a vacant one last year.
Right.
So yes, I will do that.
Thank you.
And is it a 2-year commitment? Is that what I recall?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we're passed. Thank you very, very much. School board appreciation. Mike, are you?
I was able to speak on that earlier.
Okay.
I love you guys, but I want to give the opportunity to our administrators and directors that are here. I know there's been a little bit of chatter around about that, and they wanted an opportunity to say a few things.
I would also say that I've had a few things shared with me that I wasn't able to get into the board book for this evening because it was shared. It just wasn't able to get it, but if you indulge me and do a share screen, I'd do a share screen. I'd love to share some stuff that the building principals shared with me that I can share with you, if you guys would be willing to do that.
Yeah, go up there. I don't see a problem. Go ahead.
All right. All right, do you see that screen?
Yep.
Let's see if we can't get this started.
Thank you. I appreciate what you do for our school. Thank you, Creswell helpers. I think it is nice of you to help out. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Hello, my name is Santi, and I want to say thank you for all of the volunteers who work in Creswell Elementary School. Thank you. Hi, this is Jack Fresky, and thank you for all the time you put into our school. Goodbye. Hi, I just want to thank everybody for what they were doing. I just love that you're trying to help all the kids in doing this. I just made this little background that says thanks, thank you, and a little angel. I'm so glad you guys are doing this. You guys are, well, the best. Maybe not the best people in the world to me. My mom is, but you are amazing. You're fantastic. Thanks for doing this. I gotta go. I don't know if this is for you, Miss Hallie, but I think it is. But I was gonna say I appreciate what you do for the school, and yeah, I just appreciate. So, yeah, that's what. Thank you, school board, for all your great work. Hi, I'm Skylar. Thank you for all the Creswell School Board for what you do. Thank you. I appreciate what you do.
Well, it restarted there. I have a couple more to share. So bear with me for a second. From our high school, we have a really nice thing to share with you guys. Let me bring this over to the screen that's being shared. That's from our high school. Go Bulldogs. And then another one from Creswell. Hopefully you can read some of those messages. And I'll do my best. I know the principals will too, to get some more out to you, and probably the same ones you saw tonight will be emailed out to you guys, so you'll get to see them again. So I'm sure there's going to be more coming over the next couple days. But that's what I had to share.
Well, thank you. That is cool. That is all right.
It's on a and I will say on a personal note, I appreciate you guys as elected officials. You know, I understand the idea of committing time and the going through the process. You know, I happen to be an elected official too, and so there is a piece to that sometimes people forget, that there's an element of volunteering, but there's an element of putting yourself out there. You really do expose yourself when you put your name on a ballot and you ask your fellow citizens to vote for you. That's actually a really big deal. I know 3 of you are up for election this coming year. That's a big deal. And I know that from personal experience. So what I'm saying to you is, from what I know personally, I can acknowledge what you guys have go through your minds when you decide to put your name on that ballot and have someone fill in that square. That's a big deal. And I really appreciate your time and energy in doing that. And I wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mike? May I say something, Mike?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you also. And I know all the time and energy and the love and care that you all put in for our students in our district. And so I just wanted to say thank you too.
Cool. Oh, thank you.
The videos and the notes were really quite wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing those with us.
That was so cool.
They're awesome.
And there'll be more coming, I'm sure. We didn't get any from the middle school tonight, but that doesn't mean there's not coming. They'll come to the addresses we use. So for all our correspondence, so keep an eye on them for that.
Hey,
Well, thank you very, very much.
This is David. I wanted to say a little reply to Marilyn, and I guess when I think of our board, I guess I always think of you too, Marilyn, because I just feel like you're just part of our board and you're at everything. And I think you do an amazing job over all these many years to keep us in line, and excellent communication, and you dog us till we respond. And I just think the district's so fortunate to have somebody of your caliber and integrity, and the heart you have. I think about people who love the district. I know I love the district and all these kids, but when I think of who loves the district, my first person I think that loves the district the most is always you. And
Oh.
thank you for all you do for us that
Oh,
helps us
thank
be the best board we can be together.
Thank you, David. Thank you for always including me. It was very special. Certainly my privilege.
Okay, moving right along, trustee reports. Lacey, do you want to start it, please?
Sure, I'm happy to. We've had some leadership meetings, and I know I've had individual meetings with Mike just to ask, tons of questions about what all those acronyms and requirements mean. So that has kept me busy. And then in addition, I think I mentioned this last month, but this last Sunday was our first budgeting class. So I also volunteer and lead money management classes for our community. And so we were actually able to get around 100 memberships to a curriculum and offer that free for the community. So we have about 30 families that started on Sunday and going through that. So if you have friends or neighbors, especially after 2020 and the devastation that it could have done to families financially, if you know folks that are struggling financially, let me know. I can let them know about the money class and how they can get into that for free. So it's a tremendous plan, a tremendous curriculum, and I love just trying to support families and trying to find a little bit more peace in their life. So that started, and that will keep me busy for the next 10 weeks. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Candace?
Thanks, Mike. So I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and got to take a little time. So that's the first and foremost. Second, so we've been busy with CEF. We're back to, fundraising, seeing what we can do for our teachers and our students. Many of you have donated to the Wi-Fi Assistance Fund that CEF has put together. At this point, we have accumulated a little over $3,300 to support our students who need help getting Wi-Fi assistance. And a special thank you to Mr. Johnson, who has donated much of that himself. So as the community needs help, we do have that fund sitting there that CEF can utilize. Also, I'm very excited to say I've spent every day this week helping support students in athletics. I check in football players on Monday and Wednesday. I know those kids David are talking about, and I can see how excited they are when we take their temperatures and check them in, and how very sweet and kind and respectful and excited they are to be out there. So Monday and Tuesday, I got to check in football players. And Tuesday, I'm also one of the assistant softball coaches, volunteer coach. So we had our first softball workout, which was super exciting because that was the group we left when this whole thing started. So it was great to see the girls, a big group of girls out, and they were so excited to just get out there and start hitting the ball, which is always fun for me. So thank you guys. And thank you, Brandon and Mike, for helping us get that going this week.
Deb?
I have not been nearly as busy as Candace has been, but I have been working on my Leadership Academy for my silver a little bit. Also, I have joined the peer support team for the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office as a family liaison. So I'm going to get some experience and some training there to deal with some different things. Other than that, we have not had much going on here. I've been helping my 13-year-old niece navigate online schooling some, but other than that, I have not had much else.
Okay, thank you. Ashley?
I'm also working on the Leadership Academy in my spare time. I had a nice check-in with Mr. Johnson last week, and I've been doing a lot of research on our board liability and House Bill 4402, in addition to working full-time in public accounting and teaching doing distance learning with 3 kiddos. I'm helping my nephew, who is a first grader, and my 2 kiddos. So never a dull moment out here.
I wouldn't think so. Did Mark ever make it in?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark is here.
Is he? Mark, what have you been
Hi,
up
Mike.
to?
Been busy with assorted family thing, but I have been working on my Leadership Academy. I did get my bronze certificate from OSBA in the mail, and I'm almost completed with my silver academy.
Super.
Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Mhm. David?
Well, I'm glad you didn't forget me, Mike.
No,
Just want
I
to say happy New Year to each of you. So good to see everybody tonight. I've been thinking how different being a director is since COVID hit, and how I think they used to always have me go first on the trustees report for a lot of years because I'd had a whole bunch of things that, oh, I went here, I went to this game, I went to that game, I did this. And now my list is so, let's just call it limited. In the last year, of course, you guys know I've had a lot personally with my bride, Lisa, being sick, and a lot happening with my work. But I did have a really great check-in with Mike Johnson last week. I was able to visit with Lacey and Anderson. As always, we chat anyway. He's always calling me about something. But
You're my mentor.
But I apologize. My list is a bit short. I want to tell you how proud I am in the hardest of times of COVID. How proud I am of our district and each of you guys for the way you guys care. And I really appreciate Mike Johnson, the way he leads our ship and the support and the look at the administrative team he has built in such a challenging time. And Creswell, we might be small, seems big to me now. When I grew up, it was 750 people or something like that, Marilyn and I, but I want to just tell you guys are each amazing. And I hope you guys know you really appreciate it. Go Bulldogs.
Thank you. Myself, I've been to a couple meetings. The only thing I want to say is February 17th is the Wednesday after our next meeting. And Steve Kelly is going to be giving us some training that night, and we'll figure out a time for it. But he sent everybody an email. And if any of you have any questions or any ideas of something you want to talk about, no matter what they are, would you please email or call Steve? And I'd like to have him, we've got plenty of time to do that, but I'd like to have him have all the questions and stuff you might have so he can put it all together and get some really good training out of him. He's really a sharp guy, and don't be bashful. Any questions that come up, shoot him an email or call or whatever, but I would appreciate that. But that's all I had. Moving right along, business manager. Anybody have any questions?
Mike, I've got just a couple.
Yeah.
I was wondering how we're going to start accounting for the Student Success Act money. Is that going to be coming into the general fund, or are we going to be putting that into its own fund number?
Mike, that'd be for you.
Actually, I thought it was for Chanel, but it has its own fund number.
Okay, we don't, if we've received anything or there's any activity in the fund so far, we're not seeing that in the board packet. And if there's no activity, we don't need a blank page. I just didn't know how to start tracking that money, the coming in and the coming out.
Yeah,
So
we're working on that here.
Okay.
And the new guidance that's come out from SIA is telling us where we can appropriate those funds. So, or what activities we can include under that fund. We're working between the SIA fund, the ESSER fund, and the CARES Act fund. There are 3 different ones there. And we're trying to divvy up all the expenses we've had into where they fit into those 3. So we're getting descriptions from, we've been receiving descriptions from ODE on that SIA fund. And so we're working on those accounts separately.
Okay. Okay. And so at some point when all of that gets finalized in your general ledger, we would start seeing reports on that back through, just like we do the other funds.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And just a couple more questions. They're detailed, so I don't expect a response tonight, but I can either email them in tomorrow, the specific ones, and you guys can get back to me. One is the state school fund. Looks like it's down about 400,000. And I was just curious whether that was like COVID related. Did the whole pot go down and so our piece went down? Or is that regular fluctuation around our student count? Okay, because I know that throws it big. And so I just didn't know if it was the regular fluctuation or if there was some COVID impact in there.
This is where they make the adjustment between the 49 and the 51%.
Okay. Okay. And then, so that's great. No follow-up. And then the other piece was, I was just wondering what level of athletics we were forecasting for in Fund 275. Because if we're forecasting for like all the sports going, all normal, then great. Then I guess that would be a conservative estimate to assume we're going to have full expenditures. Or if we've reduced that down, do we have enough money in there to cover that?
Yes. So we're expecting that it's going to be fully funded.
Okay.
Because the OSAA and the state has told us that we're going to have seasons.
Okay.
And what we're going to do with our coaches, if we don't have OSAA seasons, is run the intramurals.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. That's great. No need to follow up then. That's all the questions that I had. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving right along to technology. Does anybody have any questions for Joel?
If you guys indulge me for a second, I'd like to just clarify that, or not really clarify, but just if you notice that a lot of this same language is used for the report from last month regarding the seismic and the selection. The key thing I want to point out though is that the paragraph where I listed who submitted proposals, and that the selection committee actually went ahead and approved the ZCS engineering. Marilyn and I did some research on that, and we determined that this was a method we could use. We weren't sure exactly if it had to be a board action, a resolution, or what have you, but this is similar to how we did when we selected the architects for the school bond. So it's that's why it's reflected here in my board report in that respect. And if you're interested in seeing the proposals, all 3 of them, I can share those with you. They're shareable in a Google Drive. That's not a problem at all. We had our first preliminary meeting with the engineering group. We're talking about some timelines. I'll have this will be a recurring theme in my board report, information about this to share with you folks. And so if there was any questions about that, please feel free to hammer them away or email them. And then I just would add that, speaking of sports, this last week, other than Tuesday, it was a lot of rain Tuesday. When we spent whole days. We're trying to get staff. We're getting the buildings ready for students being in them, but we're also finding that a fine balance of using our custodial and facility staff to ready our fields. Our football field, our softball and baseball fields need a lot of attention, a lot of TLC. The football field got that. We're moving on to the softball field today. and then the baseball field next. We brought in some fill dirt, and we were doing a lot of tamping out there. I am a little nervous. I don't look at it so much with a sports lens. I look at it as a facility lens. You have a football team that's going to go out there and really have a good time on that grass field, and then a very, very short window and track and field. Normally you have an entire winter for that field to recover. So this is going to be a really interesting time for our fields, for these condensed seasons on our fields. But we'll do the best we can, and we'll plug away, and we want to make sure our kids are safe and happy and enjoyable. And I'm looking forward. I've enjoyed seeing the kids using, and high school teams are practicing at the Crest Lane. So it's really this cross pollination of facilities. All our spaces are being used, and it's really been exciting to see.
It's more of a reason to start a capital campaign for a turf field, right, Joel?
There's some real truth to that. I will say though that I didn't mean to. You actually opened a little thing for me. We as a district need to consider what our plan is for the turf field at the middle school. It is actually past its replacement time. It's 12 years old. You normally replace a turf field at the 10-year mark. We need to seriously consider what our options and plans are for that. I'm not saying that for tonight. You just happened to open a window for me to say that. Just a thought.
I'll always open that door to talk about a capital campaign for a turf field.
Thank you.
Hey, Joel, have you heard anything about the high school seismic application or the grant on that? Is any news on that coming through?
No, I did confirm that ours was, of course, in, and I confirmed with the state. I actually talked to them on Friday. So COVID has really restricted their ability to do a lot of their meetings, the committees that meet together with that. So they do a lot of Zoom meetings, but they are anticipating a mid to late spring announcement. We got notified, I believe it was around early May, is when Mike, you and I received the official notification for Crest Lane. So I'm assuming a similar timeline for the high school. I do feel good about our proposal at the high school. So fingers crossed.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any other questions for Joel? Okay, moving right along. Mike, you're up.
Well, I've given you the bulk of my report. I think I don't want to wear you out, but I do have one other item that I wanted to share with you on our enrollment patterns for the year. And that actually was impacted starting last year in the spring. But we have a little data presentation to put up for you. Chanel does. Chanel, can you put that up on the screen for them? So we talked earlier in the first reports from ODE or to ODE on enrollments across the state. Public schools enrollment across the state declined by 38%. And the average in school districts was 27% decline in enrollment. The majority of the decline was for homeschool and online charters. Online charters being the #1 ticket out there. Our strategy was to bring in our online academy to head that off. And as you can see in this enrollment data here, that 10% of our district enrollment is in the academy. So we were able to offset that trend that had been moving across the state and really impacted public school districts. Last year, or students that moved out of our community this year to relocate in other communities, a lot of it was for work related. Jobs were pulled back in Springfield and Eugene, and there were some cuts, people on unemployment. And so they really relocated to other communities where they could be employed, better employment. So we saw 6% of our enrollment there. You can see the numbers from Crest Lane, 43 move outs to other communities, 15 and 21 as they go through. That amounted for 6%. for our students. Then you see the homeschool transfers or amount that typically is around 15 to 20. So homeschool attendance had increased there. Our numbers are percentages considerably lower than the other district's averages in homeschool. And that's because of having the academy. And then the charter school as well, same thing. Those numbers are usually going to the charter schools are like 5 or 6. That number was quite a bit higher than 2% when we started the year in the fall. And then we had families come back into our CDL program. And some went into our academy, but most of them went right into CDL when they knew teachers were going to be active online. And that helped a lot. Other schools transferring out, that's about normal for us. Maybe a little high, but not much. But when you total it out to 6%, that's equal to what we had previously. 6% transfers out, and then transfers in 2% to offset that, which gives us a net of 4%, which is well below the 38% decline in public school enrollment across the state and 26% average. So we're holding on. We've done well to keep our families. Some have left for other opportunities. We typically get transfers out, as you know, to go to some of the neighboring districts. And, we just keep, now that we're starting to bring bodies back on campus and get our activities going, we'll be keeping a closer eye on those numbers. I watch those numbers a lot. I see them change. And what the number that really has moved the most is the homeschool transfers that have come back into the district. That has changed quite a bit of our enrollment over the last 2 months. And we'll keep working at that. I got a family, 3 kids recently that just called and said they asked if they could come back in. So of course, you're here. We got classrooms. We'll get you in. So, but that's been the trend, is moving out of the homeschool and into the academy or CDL with us. And I'm going to see those numbers. Hopefully they hold or better. And but I think they're pretty solid right now. When things move and shift into more classrooms in school, more groups in school, we'll see more numbers coming in off of that homeschool piece. But on the homeschool thing front there, in our data, a lot of folks went there because they don't plan to put their kids in any public school with in-person instruction. So they're facilitating curriculum, some of them out of our academy or Acellus, with their kids over there and pacing them on their own. They just don't, they have no intention, a good majority of those, of bringing their kids back in school in person this year. So we're working with them to help at home. And then the charter school numbers, that's that's not very high, really. It's higher than I want, but when I look out there, the charter schools have increased by 200% their enrollment. They have wait lists out there. They really were set up for something like this to happen. And a lot of those folks there entered into those charter schools last spring and continue on in this year. So that's what I got for in that. I just wanted you to see and know what's happening with our with our enrollment. That's the numbers. A lot of move out of the community though, for students. And that's all that's what I got on that. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Mike?
Thanks for giving us the details. I appreciate each of the categories.
And I'll keep you up on that number. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you is that along with everything else, and I don't mean to just I just think you ought to know how well we're doing in the district. Our teachers and our principals are doing at the building level. You know, we had one of the highest numbers of attendance percentages across the state. We were in the top 10% across the state for attendance. That's student engagement. But when you look at failing grades during CDL during COVID, and 50% is the average across the state of students failing in school, and we're below 20%. And that was our highest report, and our principals have been working at that number with every kid and every family that they can get to. I know it's lower than 20%. You know, I can only, just knowing the work ethic that these principals have, that we're looking at about 10%. And that is, you know, when you're looking at 90 and 90% success in both areas, attendance above 90%, and successful grades, kids passing at 90% or better, that is just, you know, I got to tell you, the staffs in these schools and the support that they get from the leadership is unbelievable. They are really working this hard. Now we're moving into a new phase. And we're happy. I mean, we're extremely excited about this. So we're going to grow that on-site presence. And we finally see some light in CSD. And that's the kids, they bring the light.
Hey, this is David. I just want to say, now that kind of information right there should be on the front page of the Creswell Chronicle, because kudos to the building administrators. All three buildings promotes, we're K through 12, and it shows if you can have the students so engaged with their teachers that they want to be online, they want to learn. That's what it's all about. These little kids, we have to give them a chance, and that's what our district is doing. And I just want to say, for me, that was the highlight of the whole night. There were some highlights, some few lows. That kind of information right there, engagement from kids, that's what's going to make them successful in life. So I really, really appreciate that. And I would give anything, I'd pay for the Chronicle to put it in the paper.
Well, we're going to be in next month's report. We'll be able to explain or present to you our expansion of the on-site learning and how we've grown it within a month. You've heard the reports from the principals. They're expecting 40 or more per school in this first phase, and then we're going to grow it into the second, third, and fourth rather quickly. And depending on what comes out on the 19th, really helps us get closer to that, you know, the numbers within K3 that we want in, and also in those the limited in-person instruction at the secondary level, 4 through 12. Those are numbers that we are going to introduce simultaneously as we grow at the elementary level with our littles. So we're really excited about our plans and bringing those faces in.
Oh, super. So any questions, any more questions for Mike? If not, board requests, if anybody has any ideas on anything, any questions or anything you want to talk about, don't be bashful. Get a hold of Mike or myself or Lacey and let us know what you're thinking and we'll get it from the board. As far as the calendar, the 10th, February 10th is our next meeting, and the 17th, we've got some training. And don't forget to get a hold of Steve and have any questions, why throw them at him so he'll be loaded for us when we get a chance to meet him. But other than that, unless there any other thing, I thank you all for being here, and we'll see ya. And thank you very much for the presentations.
Yeah.
We'll
Thank
see
you
you
so much,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.